Thank you for coming back. Thank you for sticking around all the way to the end. See, that's why they didn't pull out the baskets of cash until the end. They're going to wait for the... See? Yeah, that's how they get you to hang around. Last panel of the day. While we are eager to get to those 5,000 new houses or refurbished houses, we're as eager to make sure that it's the right type of housing, and I think most importantly that it's housing for everybody. And so we have a great panel here with us this afternoon. I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves, and then I've got some questions for them.
I'll go first. I'm Liz Kwapala. I work at Mahabi Ottawa Community Action Partnership. We work to help people and change lives. We help people on that pathway to upward economic mobility. So folks might come in at level 1, which is homeless, or some other life-threatening crisis, mental health, chemical abuse, substance abuse, domestic violence, and we help them get connected to benefits, which moves level 2 is benefits. We help them apply for services they might qualify for through us or the county, or learn about the free meal at the church, and those kinds of things. And then energy assistance. We serve about 17,000 people a year through 5 counties: Mahnomen, Hubbard, Becker, Ottertail, Wadena. For some of them, they want to work with us on coaching and for further upward mobility. And so with these folks in what we think of as level 3, we ask them to pick a path for either an education pathway, something that will lead them to 200% of poverty, or what we think of as a living wage job. So there's an education pathway, and education is broadly defined. So it might be getting their high school diploma or GED. It might be a certification at work that allows them a promotion. It might be a 2-year, 4-year degree. It's really on them to identify what it is, and then we can help work with them to reduce barriers for this upward economic mobility. So it could be an education pathway. It could be an employment pathway, and so maybe they want to join work in one of our Head Start classrooms, try it out as a paid apprentice, gain some skills, see if early childhood's where they want to work. Maybe they want to work with our weatherization crew, auditor folks, see if that's a path they want to take. They get these paid internships, work on upward mobility, or as we talked to low-income folks and we said, hey, here's this model we're working to create, what makes sense here? They asked for an or something else in this level 3 upward mobility bucket, because they said sometimes the big thing facing me is, my cancer diagnosis, or getting my kids back from foster care, or my sobriety now that I had this bad thing happen to me. And so we work with folks on whatever their life goal is, something that is so big and daunting in front of them that they can't tackle it alone. We try to walk beside them and help them. That moves them to level 4, which is asset building. So that's where we help people think about home ownership, but also just saving for a new refrigerator or car tires. We think of it as connection to culture or connection to faith community. Broadly defined, whatever asset building means to the family we're working with or household. And then level 5 is leadership development. Folks being leaders in their own lives and in the lives of their communities. I'll pass the mic in a second, but I want to tell you that homelessness is a big piece of what we do. And I think many of us think of homelessness, from what we see on TV. In fact, often we ask, where did you learn about homelessness? Because we're not teaching it in our schools, certainly. It's in our college classes. Even for folks who go to school for social work, there's no classes on homelessness. And so what we know about homelessness generally is what we see on TV. But when we ask kids in Ottertail County, how many of you have been homeless in the past year? That survey, 7% of children across Ottertail County schools say that they and their family have been homeless. Some of them with their parents, some without. So that's what we're into. We'll talk more in the Q&A here about what we're doing and how we'd like to partner with you on that.
Hi, I'm Ron Grobeck, Mayor of Ottertail City and Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce.
It's going to be hard to be shorter than that. Stan Kerrigan, I'm the Executive Director for Fergus Falls Area Habitat for Humanity. We work in western Ottertail County, so the railroad track that cuts through the county, we're on the west side. This year we're going to build a couple houses. We build houses, affordable houses. So for us, that's the last 2 houses we just closed in February were about $200,000. So that's kind of sad that that's affordable. But so Liz said something. She said, we don't teach homelessness in our schools. So we got about 9 high schools in Otter Tail County, right? And we don't teach construction trades either. We don't build homes here. So 43 years ago in Escanaba, Michigan, I took building trades as a junior. Now I didn't go into that, but in my 50s, here I am building homes. And so I have a vision, and we're talking to Bill Clares over in Battle Lake. We'll be at your county or your city council on Tuesday? Council meeting? And so we're going to start talking about that because 28 years ago, John Scow, does anybody know John Scow? Betty? So John Scow taught construction trades and perm for 28 years. He started 28 years ago partnering with Habitat, and he did it for 5 years with Habitat, and the reason he stopped was because that Habitat dissolved. It's gone. So then he started partnering with his HRA, and they started helping. But I envision a place where we have workers to do all this great stuff we're talking about. We're talking about how are we going to get to 5,000 when nobody's got any workers? We just heard no workers, no workers, no workers. Well, we need to create some workers. And so my vision is to partner and to try to encourage the high schools to bring back building trades, and we'll help them because we have some expertise in building houses.
Hello, I'm Nick Murdoch with the City of Perham. I'm the Economic Development Director. I'm also the Director of the Chamber of Commerce in Perham.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rudy Martinez. I'm the Finance Director for Pelican Rapids Public Schools. I grew up in Pelican Rapids, moved away for about 10 to 12 years. We lived down in Minneapolis, and 4 years ago, we decided to move back to Pelican Rapids because of all the things that we saw in today's presentations. Going back to your question regarding trades in school, we actually, for schools, we do provide CTE or career technical education for which construction is part of a funded piece. The problem, like any other Minnesota public entity, there's not enough funding. So write to your legislators that we need more funding for CTE classes, for which you and I should connect because we actually are trying to bring construction back. With that said, yeah, any other questions, let me know.
Lucky for you, Rudy, I have an entire list of questions. I was wondering if I even needed to be here. These guys were doing great. So I'll start with Nick. Nick, workforce needs have been driving Perham's housing efforts for many years now. How do you in Perham talk about, how do you define workforce housing? And kind of what are some of the work related to that?
Sure. So workforce housing in Perham could take many forms. Generally, or historically, it's always been apartment buildings or affordable housing. We kind of look at it a little different. We look at a spectrum of housing, and you've heard a lot of people talk about it today. The churn or the spectrum of housing. So we look at those entry level apartments. We look at entry level homes, and then we also look at taking care of our existing housing stock, just to get people moving, because every time someone moves up the ladder, it opens up a spot below them for someone else to move up. So that's kind of the thing we look at: stable, decent, affordable housing.
Stan and Liz, I'm going to direct this question to you. So Habitat, Stan, works and partners with working families to provide entry-level homes to new homeowners, and Mabiatwa, Liz, provides resources to clients for stable and safe housing, kind of like you talked about just a little bit ago. Tell us the value that affordability and stability in housing brings to those families in the broader community.
I'll try to be short because Kent Matson already answered this question. If you heard his presentation earlier, he talked about the health outcomes of families that have homes. So Habitat did a study in our state of 2,200 families, Habitat families. This was 2015. And it's just like Kent said, across the spectrum, families do better. Health-wise, kids do better in school. Families feel more connected to their communities. There's more pride. Kids are more likely to invite their friends over. I mean, it just goes on and on. And the really good part is, now it doesn't work for everybody. Betty mentioned, sometimes we have foreclosures. Banks have foreclosures, right? And credit unions. Not everybody's cut out to own a home. So there are some failures. But on the whole, okay? On the whole, most people do better. And so, it saves some tax money. They found that of this group, like $6 to $9 million in less services from the counties and the state because the families were just doing better.
And I'd say for folks who might not do real well in home ownership or not yet in home ownership, definitely housing stability and rental housing. Housing stability helps workers do better at work, helps kids do better at school, just reduces that, stress and chaos in their lives. I want to say too that for a lot of the clients we see who have housing instability, it's not like there's a group of people that are just always homeless, and there's a little bit of that, but we're pretty good in our community, and especially Fergus Falls now working with the county on Garrett's Grove development for permanent supportive housing to really help the folks who really need that ongoing support. But what we see is a lot of people who are just hardly hanging on paycheck to paycheck, and something happens, or it might be seniors that someone passes and dies and they're just one person left, but all of the costs are the same, but the income is less. And so it's those kinds of things, like something happens, there's breakup or divorce or even just a small thing for folks who are just barely hanging on, losing some hours, or a serious illness, or some of those things, large and small, are really what's impacting people. And so for all of those life challenges, if we can stabilize their housing, they can figure out a lot of these other things, or we can help build supports around them. But if that rug gets pulled out from under them, like if they can't maintain their housing, it's really hard to figure out how to sort out everything else. I'm sure I'll get the mic again, but in case they don't give it to me, if you're a landlord and you've got someone who's having trouble paying the rent, give us a call at Mojave, and we can certainly see if we can help. We'd like to help before you need to evict them. That's the idea. Can we help them out before it gets to that point? And that's what housing stability means from our point of view.
We talked about earlier, Otter County is 2,500 square miles, lots of unique communities. Rudy and Ron, Pelican, as an example, Rudy, it's demographically, it's younger, it's remarkably diverse. Ron, Ottertail is more homogeneous, older. Is that okay to say? And so we have that type of variability within the county. And so my questions for each of you is, how do the demographics of your respective communities play into the housing needs as you talk about it in your communities locally?
Well, Nick, when we talk about Ottertail being an older community, we have to determine what does that mean. Essentially, in Ottertail, we have three types of seniors. One is a retired senior that vacationed in the area, and when they retired, instead of moving south to a warmer climate, they said, we want to move to Ottertail. As a matter of fact, the first dollar lot that we sold was to a couple about 100 miles away. They said, we want to move to Ottertail. They bought a dollar lot, and they built a beautiful house in the area. The second kind of senior would be the downsized senior. This is somebody who lives on the lake or in a large house, and they just don't want to do the hassle, so they're looking for kind of an upscale condominium. We offer that on Highway 108. Those are the upscale condominiums that you'll see there. And then the third one is basically a single or a widowed person. They're looking for an affordable rental type housing. They don't have a lot of money. The retirement income is Social Security, probably to the tune of $1,350 a month. They can't afford a condo on 108, but they're looking for that house around the $650 to $700 a month rent. And so that's the three mixes that we have when we say we're an older community.
In regards to Pelican Rapid and being a very young and diverse community, it certainly is true, and I plug in right into it. I had this whole speech about statistics and everything that I was going to do to you guys, but then I went to the breakout number 2, and I think his name is Nick over at the Eagle Roof. He just woke me. He turned my entire perspective upside down. So I'm rewriting my speech in my head right now. So I'm going to say that in my perspective, in Pelican Rapids, we've had a phenomenal infusion of Hispanic Americans, Vietnamese families, Bosnian families, Somali families, and more recent Guatemalan and Nicaraguan families moving in. We're a pretty safe haven home, pretty welcoming. We've accepted that. We've integrated a lot of our communities into our ecosystem and in our economic system as well. We have second and third generation Mexican Americans now, which I fall under. And what's better than to achieve that American dream than to own property, to own land? And that's what a lot of people who I represent in my background want. They want that step to achieve that American dream. And a lot of the times it's a simple conversation with them because a lot of them rent in a mobile home park and they're ready to purchase. And believe me, when I've said with some even family members, they're paying more in rent than what they would if they had a mortgage. So a lot of them are ready to transition to the first step family homes. In the last presentation I was in, they also talked a lot about millennials. We're here. we're 33 with our first child, and we're doing great, and we're ready to buy. And yes, we have student debt, but I'm a prime example of that kid that graduated from Pelican Rapids, moved to the cities, wanted to try the life city, but as soon as we wanted to plant roots and have our first kid, we ran home. Why? Quality of life, more affordable. Actually, I would say we paid about the same in our houses. We broke even when we sold our Minneapolis home to move to Pelican Rapids, but in all, we partner up with some of our largest employers, whether it's West Central Turkeys, we have Mindy in the back representing us, and we have down from the city. One of the things that we know in Pelican Rapids is we have an extreme shortage for homes, and it's the same thing that when a house goes up for sale, it lasts minimum less than a week in the market, and you have bidding wars of people. So we are trying to, one, get these 5,000 homes as soon as possible, because we understand that, yes, there's an extreme shortage in terms of housing. When it comes to the employer side, and I'll just share a couple stories, working for the school district to try to recruit people to come in, that's always our biggest hurdle, is getting people to find a home, right? So yes, we moved away from the model of, searching for a job or hiring for a job, and instead hiring that people, because we want people to come to our communities, invest in our communities, stay within our communities. And ultimately, when we all do better, right? One of the things that at the school we always struggle is, and last year we had a significant amount of openings because of retirements through the pandemic or whatever, right? We had 4 teaching openings, and we've had phenomenal candidates that were very interested. I would say in the range of 35 to 45-year-olds wanting to move to the area, to whom we've offered the position to, but when they came to look at housing, couldn't find anything. So instead, we lost them to another community. And that's heartbreaking, right? Because in a bigger scale, it impacts the funding to our school district, the dollars to stay within the community. It has a chain reaction. So in terms of being young and being diverse in Pelican, we heard that we had 0 vacancy in Pelican Rapids. It's true. It really is. I've heard stories from families and friends who there's the new families that are coming in are wanting to even just rent rooms for an entire family of 6, just one room. They're begging for people to let them in. So yeah, we have a very, very extreme problem in terms of shortage.
Thank you. This next question is really for all of you. From your various lenses, what is the hardest thing about creating or having housing for all, for everybody in your community? Liz, why don't you start us, and then we'll just make our way down the line, because she was worried about not getting the microphone back.
I think the hardest thing is just this, we've learned about all these different financing packages, and we're not housing developers at Mahabiatwa, but I feel like there's just not enough, there's like too many different, I just wish it could be easier packaged together so that folks could develop housing and we'd have people to put in them, in those units. If you're a developer, Minnesota Housing, if you're looking for certain types of funding, especially housing infrastructure bonds, I think you'll get extra points on your scoring if you partner with us. It doesn't have to be us, but we'd love you to partner with us to provide at least 4 units to long-term homeless. When you partner with us in a rental project, we have to share with the state and, as part of your application, the services we provide, but the idea is that we'll come in and provide services to, these 4 units, and it's really meeting a community need. And so the state has a priority of ending long-term homelessness, and so they'll give you extra points on your application for that. I'll leave it to others who have answers here.
Okay, for us, the issue is rezoning. Elaine talked earlier about our Happy Acres lots. We have 10 lots that we put up for market for $1. We also had 3 lots in an area called our Villa. And the city council 3 months ago decided we wanted to combine those lots and try to do senior housing in the area. The problem is rezoning, because those lots fall within 1,000 feet of Donald Lake. So there's lots of restrictions that we would have if we don't do any rezoning. So we're looking at trying to do some rezoning so that we can get those lots together and get a developer to come in and put a senior housing project, maybe a 2-story with an elevator or whatever, and it would be designed mainly for seniors. So rezoning is kind of one of the issues that we're dealing with right now, particularly in that situation.
So Habitat across the country builds about between 3,000 and 4,000 houses a year, and that's been flat for quite a few years. So we're not going to build our way out with nonprofits. The state of Minnesota and the federal government put a lot of money towards houses. We're not going to get out of it through government programs. It's going to be the free market that gets us out of it. The same way the free market built this country after World War II, and half the houses in Fergus since 1950, right? And you pick any town, and that's the way it was. That's the way it can be again. We've got all these plans, we just need the workers. So I'm going to partner with those high schools. We're going to start getting workers again. Otherwise, this is all just a lot of eyewash.
So from our standpoint, the hardest part of creating the housing for all is actually just creating the diversity. It always seems like everybody wants something a little different, whether it's like a 1-bedroom or a 4-bedroom, a single level, a multi-level, attached or detached housing. We've even had conversations recently with developers about doing 4- and 5-bedroom apartments to try and get larger families some space that's affordable. So it's just all over the place with the need and the want. So getting the diversity is definitely the most difficult.
I would say for us in Pelican Rapids, one of the things that is definitely challenging, we see all the different multi-dimensional issues that are happening, but I think for us in Pelican Rapids, it really comes down to opportunity and will. Do we want to do it and can we move forward with it? And a lot of it has to do with timing. And yeah, we have phenomenal ideas out here to start developing and then start growing as a community, but it's just a question of who wants to do it, who's behind us.
Thank you. So, given the diverse audience that we have here, everything from builders to city representatives and lots of other types of roles here in the community, in this room, how can we be advocates for housing across the spectrum and recognize people have different needs? And then I'll go back to Liz and we'll make our way down again.
We used to call it NIMBY, not in my backyard. Now it's called banana, build absolutely nothing anywhere near anybody. So I think whatever we can do in our faith communities, in our neighborhoods, in our workplaces, to just talk about that and talk about, these are our neighbors, these are our relatives who need places to live. And so what can we do to not have our bananas around here?
I think we can all be advocates for housing. As we mentioned earlier, Otter Tail is kind of an older community. but we have a really good mix of young people with our fire department and stuff like that. And I think it's important to recognize what they're paying for rent in other cities and how can we have our lots and housing compete with the rent that they're paying to go to these different factories and stuff. We have to be realistic. We have to push the programs that are out there and available and make them aware of it. I think part of that's education too, but I think that's going to be the mix that we have to work with.
I'll just say Amy said she's going to have a new program, OTC Works. I hope, where's Amy? I don't know where she is. So I hope a part of that is OTC teaches, okay? I don't know how you get to the school boards. I don't know how we all know, we all have kids in school. We all had kids in school. But if we can do that, OTC can work then.
I think very importantly is from the city standpoint and from city administrator standpoint is to engage with the community. Some of us do a better job than others, and there's always room for improvement on that. Also engaging with the employers in your community. They're the front line. They're hearing the struggles that their employees are having. So having those conversations really can lead you to the down the right path.
Yeah, just kind of summarize what everyone said. Be advocates, but I would say take a step further and take action, right? So if there's a committee that you need to join to advocate for affordable housing or just housing in general, join it. Be that person. Be that person to be in that committee. If there's not one, make one. Create one. Surround yourself by those people that have the same vision as you so you can deliver something.
Throughout the day, we've heard about a wide variety of different types of tools, some that we probably haven't talked about. So I'm curious if you could just share, what specific tools has your communities or organizations used or talked about using to develop this kind of continuum of housing?
I've been part of a group with Barbara and others to just try to do landlord forums, kind of by Zoom. We're just kind of getting a rough start on this. But we think if possibly there's information we can get to landlords, and so we're working on this still, but both around what to do about tenants that might be challenging, what to do about companion animals and hoarding and how to help with rent, but also how to use, we have weatherization dollars through Mojave and like how to access that for a little bit of rehab or pairing it with other things. We're just kind of starting conversations about some communities have used risk mitigation funds. And so if you're a landlord who's willing to rent to someone who's had kind of a challenging rental history and you get like a little bit of basically insurance in case it's they wreck your unit or something, we know you've got a business to run. Is there something we can do, co-create together around that? And really, we need landlords. And so if you're someone who has Airbnb or something like that and you're willing, we've turned back to the state housing rental assistance money because we can't find people who will take it. And so if you've got any kind of unit and it's not rented out and you're willing to work with us, I'd love to just have a conversation as we also all partner to develop more housing.
And I think for us, it's the dollar lots that we've got. It's almost like it's too good to be true. What's the catch? So we have to educate the people and let them know that, yes, they can buy these lots for $1. Basically, you pay us $1 and you've got 20-some thousand in equity. And we need to let young people know that we can do that. Also, I think the challenge is working with developers and the city council working together for our rezoning things to go in and work really hard to do what we can to put affordable rental units that would give us basically 3 parameters in the rental side. And I think we can do that and get some things done on that. We can get some affordable rental housing, and that and combined with the dollar lots, I think those are some programs. We just need to really get the word out and get people to move to Otter Tail City. As you can see, it's a nice place to be, right?
This is a tough golf course, okay? It's narrow fairways. Yeah, I guess I just put a pitch in for the local housing funds. I know Amy said that county setting one up. Both houses that we closed on and sold in February to families, we had down payment assistance from our state support organization. So they have a revolving fund, and we got $30,000 for each family. So that buys down the first mortgage, right? And so one of the families paid like $145 for a brand new house. But they also had a second one, I can't remember the name of it, but we also got like $30,000 each from that. And it's a revolving, fund. It replenishes, they have to pay it back. So I would encourage, because I don't think counties are the only ones. I mean, I think cities can do this. I think, and it'd be nice if there were more of these funds where a foundation like an Otto Bremer or somebody, or Vadine, right, or Adele, could throw some money in now and then, and it replenishes itself. So.
Yeah, actually, in Perham, we do have a revolving down payment assistance fund. It was funded by multiple sources over the last 20 years, but it's been very popular. I think in the last couple of years, we've made 16 loans, down payment assistance loans. So that's awesome. But moving into like how to create the housing and the tools that we use TIF pretty extensively in Perham. I don't think there's a housing district that we've put together that doesn't have TIF on it. We've also used workforce housing for some apartments. Public investment, public developments like Otter does with their dollar lots. We have one in Perham too. They're not a dollar, but, and then private investment in Perham. We've got our Grow Perham group. It's a group of private investors that really just put their money where their mouth was and started building apartments. So all of those things build the toolbox to bring housing together. So.
Trying to scratch my head here. Since I've been back in the last 4 years in Pelican Rapids, we've had 3 big apartment complexes rise from the ground, and to my understanding is they've taken advantage of both TIF and tax abatements. Just with the new tools that came up here, we were discussing with some folks from Pelican Rapids, like, wow, we can use that for this project, this for that project. So we're really excited to take advantage of everything that was presented to us.
Thanks. All right, last question. And I'm a little nervous to ask this because we're filming and someone will come back and look at the tape. But we're going to host another housing summit in a year, as long as there's not some type of natural event that prevents us from doing that. But we'll do it again in a year. And what's one thing that you hope will be different or improved or changed when we come back here in a year?
Sorry. So I know Amy's working on this with 1,000 other things. But so a local housing advocate group, I talk to my associates around the state, and different areas have different levels of groups. Some just meet for coffee. Some have like an agenda and do outs. But it could be anything, so that and I know she's working on it because there's things on the table here, right? So I think that's it. I think we just, people that care, we can be self-appointed, right? Well, people that care about this issue, where we get together on a regular basis and share best practices and what's working.
I think for us it would be hopefully we'll have a senior housing project in the works that we'll be able to see some results. We go in and do some rezoning and stuff like that. And hopefully we can show some photographs of the 6 new houses that were built in Otter for $1 a piece. And we're hoping that we can do that we'd have 4 left and we'd sell those here next year at the next meeting, right? So I think that would be a good goal.
I'd love if each of us leave from here. I like how after each session there's been like, here's a thing you can do, so whether we're employers, if we survey our staff, there's been just a range of things. I would love if everybody, when we come back a year from now, we feel like we've all done some things, but really a lot of the presentation are pictures of what's under, what's in development here in Otter County.
I think I'd really like to see more partnerships happen. From our standpoint, when we see partnerships, things tend to happen faster. They're more in depth. They're more meaningful. So just more partnerships, whether it's city, county, city developer, county developer, just banks. I mean, partnerships across the board can help with the housing stuff.
Yeah, I would say everything that these guys talked about, from advocating to creating partnerships. I would also love to highlight hopefully one of our communities take advantage of one of these, and we can have more highlights just to showcase them, to see how everyone is doing and taking advantage of this. I'm going to comment just on something real quick, which I think it's a little bit of a cultural thing. It's a little bit of a joke, I think. So you guys are putting statistics and everything up about senior housing and moving into assisted care, and I'm thinking with my Mexican side going, that would never happen. Like, that does not happen in the Mexican culture. Like, my parents have already told me that by the time they retire and they can't take care of themselves, they're moving into my guest bedroom. So when you guys are talking about all of this, I'm going, wow.
I would love for us to ask questions, but I promised I'm going to get you out of here by 3 o'clock. Let's round of applause for the panel. You guys can head back to your seats. I've got three quick things I'm gonna hit in the 3 minutes that we have left. First of all, on your tables, you'll find small cards to join a quarterly convening of housing partners. I think we just talked about that, as Amy's holding what it looks like up back there. The CDA and HRA have heard from lots of folks that this opportunity to share knowledge and resources is beneficial. And so please take an opportunity to take those with you. Is there something to fill out on those? Name, any information they ask for, provide it. Just don't ask questions. The second thing, we have a motto, thanks to Eric Osberg in our office, that says there's no limit to what we can achieve if we don't care who gets the credit. And we try to live that every single day. Sometimes they need the credit. And so I want to thank our CDA staff, our HRA staff for putting this together. And before you applaud, a big thank you to Sarah Shaky, because now you can applaud. I talk a lot about how tourism and our lakes can bring great people here to live and work. She is a tremendous example of that. Her family had a lake place in Ottertail County, and then she got an internship. And now she's a full-time employee here, and even better, she has a twin sister who's a teacher in one of our schools. Now, I don't know who has it worse. Sarah has to work with me every day. Her sister has to teach my 11-year-old son every day. And so I think every day they're like, oh, what did the Leonard do? So thank you to Sarah. Thank you for all of the work that went into this. She literally gave me 3 pages of notes yesterday and said, just say this. And I still screwed it up multiple times. So thank you, Sarah. The last thing I want to say in closing is, and something else that folks probably get sick of me saying, is a rising ship, or a rising tide lifts all ships. We truly believe that is true, and none of us can do this on our own or in isolation. I want to thank all of you, everyone that's here, for taking the time today, but also the work that you do every single day. It's you and the individuals in this room and the folks that are out doing the work that make it a reality. We also know that housing isn't the only challenge. It intersects with workforce and childcare and broadband and tourism, and creating welcoming communities that will allow people, folks like Sarah who we're trying to get here, to live their best life here in Ottertail County. So thanks again, appreciate you being here, and we'll see you a year from now.